What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and yesterday, Marvel Studios gave us a new look at Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that has a lot of new footage in it, specifically one very interesting scene where it looks like they have revealed the ancient evil elder god Chthon. Possibly. Now, there are two of these beings spotted in this trailer if you look at the full-scale version of the trailer. So we're going to talk about who this could be. Is it Chthon? Because Chthon has a lot of connections to Wanda, very specifically chaos magic and the Darkhold. He created the Darkhold, which is going to be a pretty big part of Multiverse of Madness. So we're going to break it all down and tell you everything you need to know in this video. And of course, if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news. Alright, now this new TV trailer spot actually has quite a bit of new footage in it. And it's quite a big deal and is kind of causing quite a bit of controversy online right now about what is actually happening in one very specific scene. Now, there are actually three scenes that I want to break down in this video today, but let's talk about this main scene that could have Chthon in it. Now, I posted some stuff on Instagram and on Twitter about Chthon, and I saw a lot of people actually asking me who he is. And he's very, very important and has a huge connection to specifically Wanda Maximoff and her chaos magic. So, let me explain who he is. So, billions of years ago, right after the Earth was formed, the Demiurge, which was the sentient life force of Earth, created the Elder Gods, one of which was Chthon. Now, at first, these gods were all good. They ruled the world together, and it was peaceful for the most part. And they ruled it peacefully for about 1,000,000 years, and during this time, Chthon spent a lot of time studying the mystical forces and the mystical arts of the universe, and eventually he became the Earth's first black magician. So he became pretty powerful, but then the Elder Gods kind of started to turn into demons. They became bad and started to go at war with each other. Well, one of the Elder Gods who had not yet been corrupted into a demon, Gaia, went to the Demiurge and asked for a way to stop all these other Elder Gods because she feared for the life of the universe and all the new life that would eventually come. Well, she entered the center of the earth and then she gave birth to Atum, also known as the Egyptian god Amun-Ra, the god of the sun, which I'm sure we might actually see pop up in Moon Knight. So keep an eye on that. But Amun-Ra / Atum went on to be known as the God Eater because he went around and started killing these evil elder gods. Well, Chthon managed to flee and escape by creating another dimension, known as the Flickering Realms, or sometimes known as the Other Realm. However, before he left on Wundagore Mountain, Chthon put all of his knowledge about the mystical arts, about black magic, about magic in general, he put all of that on parchment that was indestructible, and he created the Darkhold. Some of you may know this book because it was the book that we saw in WandaVision. This is the book that Wanda is studying in the cabin in the post-credit scene for WandaVision. And this book is probably causing a good majority of the trouble in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because, as you'll go to find out, it's pretty corrupt and is probably corrupting Wanda, which is something that I think we see in a scene here. I think Wanda is tricking Wong, but we'll get right to that after the finish of the story. So Chthon created the Darkhold and he made that a physical link between Earth and his new home should he ever choose to return. Now, a lot ends up happening between this time and the time where he runs into Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch. The Darkhold's pages get scattered, then they get put back together, then Chthon gets banished. A lot happens, but here's where Wanda Maximoff comes in. The High Evolutionary would go on to build his citadel on Mount Wundagore. Now, the High Evolutionary was warned that Chthon might actually return, and then he did. However, the High Evolutionary, doing experiments on animals, evolving them into almost humans, calling them new men, managed to drive back Chthon. However, right before he left the world, he reached out and he touched an infant who was being born, and that infant was Wanda Maximoff. The High Evolutionary had taken Wanda and Petro Maximoff to do experiments on them, and then would later on go on to return them to their actual Maximoff parents. But Chthon touched Wanda, marking her as a potential vessel for the future for him to return in, and he also granted her some dark magic. Chaos magic. And eventually, somebody known as Mordred, under the influence of Chthon, captured the Scarlet Witch and performed a ritual allowing Chthon to actually use her body as a vessel on Earth, and he did, and he went up against the Avengers. But of course, he was eventually defeated. But you can see how big of a connection here Chthon and the Darkhold have to the Scarlet Witch. And the last time we saw Wanda, she was studying the Darkhold, and we've seen the Darkhold in the trailers for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, here's the question. These two beasts that we see in the trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, are they Chthon? Yes, I realize there are two of them, but hey, it's a multiverse movie. There are variants. There could be two, or this could simply be some type of magic that Chthon is performing to duplicate himself. Remember, he spent 1,000,000 years studying the mystic arts. He knows a lot. Now, one thing that is happening in this scene is it actually looks like Wong and the Scarlet Witch are fighting with each other, not against each other, and it looks like they're also fighting with these two monsters, all seemingly being on the same team. However, I do believe this is some form of Chthon because it looks just like he looks like in the comics. So either they're putting a little twist on him or he somehow managed to duplicate himself. But addressing all of these characters fighting together, I don't think that's the case. There are a few explanations that we can think of as to what is actually happening here. One is that Chthon could have actually managed to multiply himself, and Wong and the Scarlet Witch are indeed fighting them, but they turn around to see others behind them and they're kind of surrounded. That could be one instance. Two, they could all be fighting a much greater threat, and that could be the evil Wanda. It seems pretty clear at this point that Wanda, or at least a variant of her or a version of her, is going to be the main villain of this film. And it looks like she's going to threaten the entire multiverse, so maybe these characters right here, including a variant of the Scarlet Witch, could be fighting her together. But what I actually think is probably happening here is that the Scarlet Witch is somewhat tricking Wong. We've literally seen Wong being tortured by the Scarlet Witch in some of the trailers. She's not going to be good, and I'm guessing that these monsters, who I do think is Chthon, aren't going to be good either. I think she has summoned them somehow, or Chthon is actually controlling Wanda at this point, and that's why she's evil. So I think this scene right here could be where Wong actually gets captured. I don't think he's fighting the fight that he thinks he is, and I hope he doesn't die, but let me know what you think. Now, like I said, there are two other scenes that I want to talk about, and the first one is in kind of the beginning, where Doctor Strange goes and finds Wanda and says, we could use an Avenger. Now, I like this a lot because obviously it's a reference to the Avengers, but I actually really think that this movie is going to end with Wanda sort of destroying the universe that we know, which could be a really smart move by Marvel, because if you're trying to keep things fresh and kind of make it different than the first 10 years of the MCU, what better way to do that than to kind of rewrite the universe a little bit? But it's funny because Wanda says there are other Avengers and Doctor Strange says, we'll get you back on a lunchbox, which shows you that in this universe, on Earth, the Avengers are indeed superheroes and people love them and they do sell merchandising. Which kind of makes you wonder who gets the money for that, because Sam Wilson in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was broke. So I'm wondering who gets the money for that. But the next scene is a blink and you'll miss it scene of Wanda. She's in her full Scarlet Witch uniform, and if you take a look at the background, it looks like she's probably at the Carmitage. And as sad as it sounds, I think this is most likely her attacking the Carmitage. We've seen the Carmitage get attacked in several of the trailers and TV spots by now. We've seen all of the sorcerers prepare for battle. And like I said, we've seen Wong kind of in shackles, but the shackles are made up of Wanda's chaos magic. So Wanda is coming and is going to be pretty bad in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but what is behind this? Is she being possessed by Chthon? Is the Darkhold corrupting her? Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.